Aegon, poor guy. I just feel eternally sorry for him. I love him to bits, and I think he's an absolute tragic case. And I just want the best for him, Josh.
We're all rooting for that poor guy. What a sweetie.
Prepare your ears, humans. Happy, Sad, Confused begins now.
Hey guys, it's Josh. Welcome to another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused, a very special one for the House of the Dragon fans out there. A very rare opportunity to hear from pretty much the entire main cast and creators of this epic show. So that is the main event on Happy, Sad, Confused today. Thanks, guys, as always, for checking out the podcast, listening, or watching however you are enjoying this. We have two events that I've been touting for a number of weeks. My last time touting them because they're upon us. Okay, this is your last chance, I think, for both of these, probably. This Sunday, if you're in New York, come on out, guys. 28 years later with Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, and Danny Boyle. Exclusive clips, a sneak peek at this hugely anticipated film with some of our favorite guests on Happy, Sad, Confused. It's going to be a blast. Information is in the show notes, as is our June 3rd event in Los Angeles. I'm coming to LA very, very soon with living legend Gary Oldman to talk about Slow Horses, but his entire career, from Harry Potter, Dark Knight, Sid and Nancy, True Romance, everything and anything that I can pack into an hour. It's going to be a blast. Tickets have gone very fast, so the best seats in the house are taken, but there's still plenty because it's a pretty intimate space. So get in on it. It's going to be a packed house. It's going to be awesome. As always, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/happysadconfused for discount codes, early access, autographed posters, all sorts of cool stuff. Hope you guys have been enjoying all our coverage lately. We did a lot of Mission Impossible, some really fun stuff. The Christopher McQuarrie conversation was a blast on our last episode. If you haven't checked that out, please do. I also got a chance to catch up with Tom Cruise and Simon Pegg and Haley Atwell for MTV. Some really cool stuff I've been posting on my social media. As always, you can follow me on at Joshua Horowitz on Instagram. That's the best place to keep abreast of what I'm up to besides the Patreon. Okay, let's talk House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon. Love this show. I was a late bloomer to Game of Thrones, but now I'm all in. We've been privileged to have a bunch of these actors individually on the podcast before, but to have a big group, huge opportunity. I was very honored to be asked to moderate this. This is actually from a couple months back, but has never been seen by the masses or heard by the masses. They invited me out to Los Angeles to host the cast, the creators of House of the Dragon, for this conversation for Emmy voters in the hopes of getting the word out on this fantastic show. And I'm so thrilled to finally be able to share it with all of you. Get a load of this group that you're going to hear from. Ryan Condal, who is the co-creator and executive producer. Sara Hess, who's the executive producer and a writer on the show. Matt Smith is on this panel. Emma Darcy, Olivia Cooke, Fabien Frankel, Steve Toussaint, Tom Glynn-Carney, and Ewan Mitchell. Pretty cool. Pretty awesome. 9 amazing folks. Hadn't met a couple of them. I got a chance to get to know Ewan a bit. Kept running into him at the hotel. That was so fun. He was so sweet. I love Fabien from my past conversation with him at New York Comic Con. Matt, of course, a regular on the podcast. Emma, been on the podcast. Olivia, hadn't seen in a while, but lovely to catch up with her. Just a great group. And this show is a big undertaking, to say the least. Doesn't get any bigger than this. The scale of it, every aspect of it is impeccably done. And to hear a little bit about the process, the writing process, the production process, how these actors approach these roles, particularly in season 2, and a little sneak peek at season 3. This was the first time they'd gathered in a really long time. So to set this up, they gathered, I think, just literally that day for this event. And then I think we're going into production, read-throughs, etc., for season 3, which by now is well underway. So this was a cool moment in time to capture with this lovely cast, this lovely creative team. I hope you guys enjoy this. My thanks to everybody at HBO for inviting me, and again, to this amazing group. So I hope you guys enjoy this. This is me in Los Angeles in a fancy event space with the cast and crew of House of the Dragon. Enjoy. Hi, everybody. How's it going, everyone? Welcome.
My name's Josh Horowitz. I'm so thrilled to be here tonight to welcome you to a celebration of this remarkable show, House of the Dragon, everybody. You ready to see some of these amazing actors and creators? Look, this show, as you can now, you just got a really good reminder by seeing episode 4 of season 2. This show marries everything well together on the big screen, especially on the big screen, I have to say. How great does it look on the big screen? Production design, effects, the writing, the cast, everything about this show is impeccably done. And my gosh, to succeed, to kind of like establish themselves in their own right after a show like Game of Thrones, what an accomplishment. I'm so excited to bring these guys out. They've just had a nice reunion backstage because they haven't seen each other in a while. And yes, season 3 is coming. So we're going to get into a lot of, we'll talk season 2 mostly, guys. Okay, no spoilers. But we have a lot of seats to fill. So let's bring them on out. Please give a warm welcome to Ewan Mitchell, everybody. Ewan, come on out. Tom Glynn-Carney, please join us. Mr. Steve Toussaint is with us. Come on out. Fabien Frankel, join us, please. Olivia Cooke is with us tonight. Olivia, please join us. The amazing Emma Darcy, everybody. Woo-hoo. Matt Smith is in the house. Come on, Matt. Executive producer Sara Hess is with us. And co-creator, showrunner, and executive producer Ryan Condal. Ryan, please join us. And that's all the time we have. That's always the joke after, there are more than 5 panelists. Congratulations, everybody. It's so good to see you all. So it's been a minute since you've all gathered. This is just like a glorified excuse to reunite, right? How active has the WhatsApp text groups been in the last year and a half, 2 years in the House of the Dragon
Dormant.
realm? What's that?
I said dormant. No, it's nice. We haven't seen each other. Like, not in like a, not en masse for a bit.
Yeah. I sensed actual warmth and love backstage, not like the phony baloney Hollywood thing.
Who does the phony baloney? Tell us.
Yeah, let me run through the shows. No. Ryan, is there a common denominator in a cast member in House of the Dragon? How do you cast a show like this and know they're going to bring the stuff you need for a show like this?
These guys are great. I mean, look, they're very good actors, so you never would know. But we genuinely all like each other, and it's a lot. I mean, this show is a lot. You're around each other for a long time, especially season 1, which essentially took like a year to film. So I was a little worried because of COVID and everything. I was a little worried coming out of that. Did we all, get too much of each other? But it's been really great, and I think the sense that we're all collaborating to make this thing that has really resonated with people is a big part of that. But all credit goes to Kate Rhodes James, our casting director, who helped assemble this crazy group, and also remember in season 1 the younger versions of everybody, and that was such a monumental task to build. But I think you're looking for this alchemy of trying to, match, people with these roles and have them embody the role, and then also make it 3-dimensional, lift it off the page and make it into something new. And part of that is an actor embodying it. You're just kind of doing it one at a time, and then, hoping that it's all going to jive together.
Before we talk to your amazing cast, I'd love to hear from both of you a little bit about how you marry what we just saw in this episode. Time and time again, the spectacle with the intimate moments, and finding the drama and not being overwhelmed by the spectacle. Is that a constant discussion in the writer's room as you're putting together each episode? And how do you find that balance, you think?
Yeah, that is really the trick of the show. This show is ultimately a chamber drama. Writ very large, and I think that's the thing that Sara and I think I'd like to think do very well together, is creating a thing that is largely 2 people in a room trying to get one over on each other, and then filling it with this sense of scope and scale and sprawl many locations, battles, action, building up to those big scenes. And I think this episode is a great indicator of the reason this episode, I think, works so well is because we've earned our way into it. If you just did this episode out of context with all the exciting spectacle, it's all gorgeously rendered and done. But if you don't care about what's going on and you're not invested in, Aegon and his journey and Rhaenys and her, heroic last stand, then it all kind of, it's just empty calories. It just kind of goes by. So you have to put in the hard work of doing that, doing the chamber drama so that something like this works.
Yeah, I think you'd agree with me that we both feel that like a scene with two people in a room can be just as intense and dramatic as a giant dragon battle. Like it's not you're not saying that this is the, even though in this episode that's the climactic scene, I think we really we feel that the big drama is like mostly between two people. And I think you'd agree with me that that's like our priority. Yeah. The giant spectacular things mean nothing unless you are invested in it. And, we could do one of those every episode and it would just get boring unless you're really in the people.
You mentioned Rhaenys. I did want to mention the amazing Eve Best, who you just saw featured so amazingly in this episode, was going to be here, couldn't be here tonight because of a conflict. But I mean, what a showcase for her in this episode. What a send-off.
She's amazing.
Amazing. All right, so let's talk about some of these character arcs that we saw this season. Who was surprised? You've been through it. You've been through the first season. Who was surprised when they saw what was on tap for you in season 2? Steve, yeah.
At the end of season 1, I didn't know that I had kids. So that was a surprise when I read those episodes and was like, oh my God, I thought he just loved Rhaenys, but ooh, naughty boy. So yeah, that took a little bit of working out in my mind.
Sure. Anyone else think I have a beat on the character, I know what's what, and then these writers have thrown me for a loop?
Tom, were you ready to get your face burned off?
I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when.
Wasn't just your face, was it?
Wasn't just my face. Thank you, Fabien.
I don't think he needs reminding. He knows.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
Say that again, Josh.
I was going to say, I don't think you need to be reminded of what happened to you. You know.
No, like a sausage on a spit was the phrase they chose to use. Thank you for that, Ryan and Sarah.
That was Sara.
I mean, I knew that was going to come. I mean, my first day on set in season 1, Ryan and Miguel took me into a trailer and spoke to me about the whole arc of it. And I was excited for that, really. I was excited to sort of feel that transformation that Aegon goes through. And the hair and makeup team did a great job.
How did that transformation, how did that exhaustive prosthetics process inform the performance in the second half of the season?
In more ways than I thought, to be honest. It sort of affected how I moved because it was such a tight, it was so tight on my face, and I enjoyed that, actually. I felt that was really helpful because it restricted my movement, also affected how I spoke. And yeah, it's always good to be reminded of obviously you don't have that physical ailment, so it's nice to be physically reminded of it every time you try and move or open your mouth. It helped in many ways.
Matt, let's talk a little bit about the journey we saw Daemon on the season. I mean, you're kind of cast out a little bit away from all your anchors from the first season.
Yeah.
Meeting some new folks, great Gail Rankin and others.
Great Simon Russell Beale.
Exactly.
I had the time of my life with, what an actor and what a gent. He was wonderful.
So what were the unique challenges for you think, in this second season?
Gosh, there's so many on this show, really. It was trying to make the madness or the journey of that specific, really, without sounding too sort of actory about it, but trying to really root his descent and his kind of spiral into chaos and dreamland and place it somewhere that felt like it made sense to me, really. But it was, and I just missed all my chums. It was quite hard being on my own, apart from the great Simon Russell Beale. He was the best.
In honor of the dreams and visions and nightmares of Daemon, has anybody had a work-related House of the Dragon dream or nightmare in the course of production?
I get chased by a wig every fucking night of my life.
I do feel like we need an extra seat for the wig tonight, just to honor. I didn't know when that would come up within the first 5 minutes, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is such an all-encompassing show. It's a long production. Do you find that you eat, sleep, and breathe House of the Dragon? It's hard to separate life from work when you're in the midst of it? Emma?
My experience of it is a bit like cohabiting with someone. Like I have a lodger, you know, like there's me in my house, and then there's sort of, you just occasionally like hear someone, I don't know, like using the bread in the kitchen or something. That's my experience. It's like that you have to make additional space in your life for another body, and that's, you know, that's not unpleasant. Sometimes I like my privacy, but broadly, yeah, quite sociable.
Rhaenyra is obviously on quite a journey of grief throughout this season, especially like we start off in that first episode of the season, and you have to convey a lot without a lot of actual dialogue. Did you find that challenging, freeing?
Honestly, when I read the first episode and Rhaenyra says almost nothing, she says one line, I found it very, very moving as a very eloquent way of describing grief. I think, like, I don't know, I was sort of learning about bereavement for the first time, and I think I think language tends to break down around the loss of someone. I think, a lot of, I mean, grief is the landscape of that experience changes so much and sort of so continually, but so much of it is kind of pre-verbal or non-verbal. And I just found it was very moving. That there was no adequate language available. Felt like very eloquent writing to me.
Yeah. Steve, for you, I mean, there's obviously a lot of grief for your character as well throughout this season. Is that a through line for you found in season 2?
Yes, I think I would echo what Emma has said. When I read what was going to happen, I sort of thought, okay, I better find out a little bit more about grief close up, you know. And the thing that I kept hearing from things that I'd read and so forth was that it can come in waves, that you think you're over it, that you think you're fine, and then something happens and there it is again. And then trying to portray that in a scene which isn't about that, or the scenes with my illegitimate son when he tells me how he really feels. Or the fact that all the time that we've known Corlys, he is someone who, whenever there's an emotional problem, he escapes to the sea. In this case, he can't because his ship is in a state of disrepair. So he's left having to face up to this whole shenanigan, this whole thing. He's the one person who, because I often say to people that the only time you see Corlys completely and honestly as himself is in the scenes with his wife. And then she's gone, and now it's like, oh, now he's left adrift, or what's he going to do? And so it was a very interesting exploration for me, trying to portray that and go through that journey.
Ryan and Sarah, I'm curious, like, how much of your writing, the arcs of these stories in season 2, was informed by what you saw from your actors in season 1. They show off what they can do. You see the relationships in front of you, how they develop. Did that inform sort of the arcs of the characters at all in season 2?
It definitely does. And once we get to, I mean, it's one of the great privileges of working on television as opposed to film, I think, is you get to spend years settling into each other, getting to know each other. And I mean, you know, when Emma's talking about the episode where Rhaenyra doesn't speak at all. I mean, we had these conversations in the room. It's like, can we do this? Is this going to be weird? And we ultimately went with it, I think, because we trust Emma as an actor, and we know, like, okay, they can pull this off. Like, we know that we can give things to them. And I mean, I don't know about you, Ryan, but now definitely knowing all of you guys so well, like, I can hear your voices in my head, and I can sort of go, oh, this is going to be really fun to give to this actor, or to see them play this. Like, I think the better we get to know each other, I think the better the show gets, and the same with the directors. And we're all sort of, I think, in a stage right now going into season 3 where it feels like we're all pulling together, and we sort of are in the same lane, and we all know each other now. And so, yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, so much. Season 3 is, essentially done. We start in a couple of weeks, and
done writing.
Done writing. Yes, not very much.
Let's
not
show the
done.
first episode. We have it right.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, I found this with my previous television series. As you go along, as the characters as the actors embody the characters, it actually becomes much easier to write in a more interesting way, because you get to know everybody really well. And I mean, I found season 3 not easy. I mean, it's never easy, but it's just much. There's much more shape and depth to it right out of the gate, because you're writing for people. Whereas season 1, Sara and I largely wrote, it's like a novel, because there was nobody. I mean, we had archetypes and ideas of, types and things that we wanted, but you're largely writing, something without a face and a name to it. And now that, season 3, because so much of the cast of characters has been solidified. I mean, there are some new characters this season, some major new characters this season, but I would say, 85% of them, we already knew who they were. And it just makes it much more rewarding to write it, because when you write a scene between, when you write a Daemon and Rhaenyra scene, or a Rhaenyra and an Alicent scene, you can hear the voices of those characters performing it. You know what everybody can do here. And it can push the writing in a way that maybe wouldn't have happened if you were writing a season 1 script.
Speaking of Rhaenyra and Alicent, Olivia, let's talk about that very key relationship. I mean, you obviously felt a connection with each other working together, but then you see with the fan, nothing. There was nothing. Body language experts, watch. No. Were you surprised though? Have you been surprised by I've talked to Emma a little bit about the fandom around the relationship on screen. It must be shocking to see sort of how it took on a life of its own, to see how the fans have just really embraced that relationship.
Yeah, it's been amazing and really beautiful. I've never been sort of a part of a character and something that takes on a mythology of its own. And I think that's really gorgeous. And I love how embracing a lot of people have been for our characters. Because, I mean, Alicent's tricky. She's tricky. But in terms of our relationship, it's been gorgeous to sort of play with just the intricacies and just how layered and hard and sticky the relationship is now, especially in season 2, but also the deep relief and comfort they still find in each other. So it's beautiful writing and really gorgeous to play that. And it's so few and far between, because Emma and I barely saw each other last season. We'd have stolen moments in the car park, and that was about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, some of the most key relationships in the show, particularly in this last season, the characters in it share a lot of screen time with each other, whether it's Rhaenyra and Alicent or Rhaenyra and Daemon. Is that something that raises the stakes when you're doing one of 2 scenes with Matt over a season? This is going to be, all eyes are going to be on this scene. We have to convey a lot in a little time.
Yeah, 100%. I had exactly the same thing. I think Rhaenyra kind of exists between 2 poles, and they're here and here. And it was a challenge for me to go into a season where neither of those poles are easily accessible. And it's there's you're aware of a broader pressure on the scene. That it has to deliver at a certain level. I think often this is what I guess Sarah and Ryan were saying. The show tries to deliver dramatic scale within kind of small spaces or something. And so that's a challenge. But also, like, personally, I cherish those scenes, and there's sort of personal stakes there too. Yeah.
Matt, what do you recall about your climactic scene with Emma and bending the knee at last?
Wow.
Rhaenyra.
I just sort of love being around Emma on a, like, it's I think we sort of look forward to those moments, right? Not to speak on behalf of you, but I really missed them actually this season, I have to say. But when we were back together, it was good. I got to hit a cup and be angry, and
Sarah, I believe you wrote that episode, Sarah, correct? That's episode 8?
Yes.
And writing that final...
Yes.
Yes, I can confirm.
Yeah.
But again, like, that's a moment. That's like it's been building to that moment.
You mean specifically Rhaenyra and Alicent?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that when we talked about it in theory, it was like we wanted it to be like this war is boiling and there are these armies marching and, men with swords and spears, but really the most consequential thing that happens is these two women meeting in a room and hashing their personal shit out in a way that is going to be incredibly consequential later on. And so, like, while all this Sturm und Drang is happening, that, like, I mean, we've talked a lot, Ryan, right, about, like, those moments in history, the things that aren't written, like the things that we can never know. So it's like, we know that this war happened, but we didn't know that it got kicked off because, like, some guy woke up one day and had a stomach ache and felt shitty and got into a fight with somebody over something stupid. And you know what I mean? It's like those little things that are personal that happen that we can never actually know. You never know how much of history happened because of some petty, somebody got their ego bruised or whatever it was. So I think we definitely were going for there. And sort of at the end, it's like all these armies are marching, but the real important thing is that these two people have come together and managed to communicate with each other, and that's going to change everything. So yeah, it was a fun thing to write, and also it's just like when you come into that writing, it's fun. It's going like, yes, it's going to be Emma and Olivia in a room, just like, circling each other, and it's going to be amazing. Like it's a fun thing to write.
Fabien, let's talk about Criston Cole and his exceptional duties as Hand of the King. Are you defensive about that? Do you defend Criston to your dying day and his actions?
Where's my lawyer? It's I guess you're always trying to like justify everything in your own head as to why he makes the decisions that he makes. And I think there's a lot, we talked a bit just now about episode 8 and there's a scene between Gwaine and Criston Cole where he sort of, I feel, shares probably his most enlightened thoughts about kind of the life that he's been living. I think it's weird, because he's a character who so wants to be away from like this place that he's been sort of firmly put in the middle of in a job that I don't think he's particularly suited to, and I think there's this like pull of like, I don't think he wants to leave because he's got these incredibly overwhelming feelings for Alicent, but then I also think there's this huge desire to get out and no longer be sort of confined to this like very intense Machiavellian world that he just doesn't belong in at all. So it's but yeah, do I condone everything? I don't know. But, I try.
Do you all envision yourselves as the hero of this story? Ewan, can you make the case for Aemond as the hero of House of the Dragon?
No, not a very strong one. I don't know. I think Aemond definitely feels like he is the hero of his own story. But like, as you saw in that episode there, like after what he does to Aegon, it kind of raises the question of like, who does this kid bow to? What is his agenda? He took out one of the major players on his own team, on Team Green, a major asset in killing another dragon. And so it's like, who is this kid serving? And I guess you'll never know.
What do you think would surprise an actor about what it's like to be on the set of this? I mean, obviously the scale, it doesn't get any bigger than House of the Dragon. But what would you say to an actor that maybe what they wouldn't realize about the vibe on these sets?
It's a lot of laughter, I think. Like, I genuinely, like, I don't know that I've laughed more on a job, like, than I have, like, during the filming of these, like, 2 seasons.
Also, Fabien is, like, trapped in a tin can. So when he goes, he's just, like, juddering and making so much noise. And, like, sound is just like, Fabien, just get it together.
Honestly, watching him eat his lunch is just a 3-act play in itself. It's the best.
It's just honestly like walking in every day, I sort of feel this huge, like this feeling within me that I need to get out of this fucking armor just for like 2 minutes so I can have lunch. And if you want to do anything, it's like a 45-minute ordeal to
his
get
long-suffering costume.
Awful, mate. Absolutely. It's about 19 people trying to like take this armor off at any given moment.
Fabien tripped down some stairs and it honestly sounded like a drum kit falling down some stairs.
He's not
to be
feeling
fair, Reese actually threw me down the stairs, like launched me because you can't really, your legs feel very small in a sort of, when you're in this sort of square box. Anyway, so.
The floodgates are open. The rest of the panel is devoted to your armor, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
That being said, when I talked to you, Tom, and Matt, I feel like the wig still was the one that still came up the most. That's still.
No,
have you gotten over
can't
it yet,
any more about this wig?
I love the wig. I love the wig. I struggle with the ball cap. Just it's a private thing. Don't worry. But
does Daemon have a crew cut this year? Is there a new hairstyle?
That's why I'm growing this out and dyed it blonde to see if I can get away with not doing it.
I remember one of the first days we were talking about the bald cap, and Matt was like, "Mate, they've given me a silk one. You need to ask for a silk one."
Yeah.
So then I went into hair and makeup the next day, and I was like, "I heard tell of this silk bald cap."
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh fucking hell, not you as well." So in the end,
it didn't work.
In the end, I just shaved my head, and so did you, didn't you? So I just stick it on like Velcro instead, you know.
Does anybody here want to nominate a relationship, a character relationship that you're not involved in that you love watching on screen? 2 characters that you love to watch just from afar as a fellow actor, as a fan. You guys are participants and fans of the show, I would assume.
I have stuff to do with him, but Larys Strong, Matthew Needham, I think is an absolute master at what he does. And it's a pleasure to share any moment on screen with him. But just as an audience member, I love watching his choices and what he decides to do with Larys. Yeah,
I'm excited for Gale's relationships coming up in season 3 and all being spooky, and I'm excited for that. Gale, who plays Alice Rivers,
of course.
Can I just say, low-key, my funniest relationship to watch is between Rhaenyra and her handmaid, Olinda Massey, that she's low-key an absolute dick to in every single scene. And it makes me laugh so much.
She just doesn't like faff.
Yeah.
Sarah, what are the most challenging scenes to write in House of the Dragon? Is there a type of scene? Is it the spectacle, the intimate moments? What are you?
I mean, there's the spectacle. I'm like, here, Ryan. Like,
insert action here.
Yeah, insert action.
I was not in the room one day, and I think I received room notes with it was a description of something that was happening, and I think this was a season 3 thing. And then the room notes are all, it's a black and white, Word document, and then there was just a thing highlighted in pink with music notes on either side of it that said "Have fun, Ryan," in it.
It was a big war. It was big battle scene.
Stuff,
yeah. I think the hardest things to write, though, honestly, are the small council scenes.
Yeah.
Because there's like 8 people in there.
Yeah.
Every single one of them has an agenda. There's a ton of information that you're trying to feed into the audience, but there's like, everyone's got their thing going on. You want to make sure
but it's better when everybody has an agenda. It's when because those scenes are like exposition vehicles, but if you can, that's the trick, is like giving everybody they have an angle,
their
angle, because then it's a character scene versus just like Here's all the stuff going on.
Then so many times
Here's the news update for Westeros.
Yeah. But so many times it's like you're trying to get everything out that you have to happen, and it's 4 pages long, and then it's like, oh shit, we forgot to give lines to this guy. Like you're trying to. It's very not Jenga tower, but like you're sort of trying to. There's a million moving parts, and people are looking at each other, and there's always it's a free for all in there.
Yeah, they're great fun. I mean, for me, I think yes to that. I think they're the scenes that for me are the most challenging for all of us are the scenes that are kind of what I would say traditional.
Sexy.
Yeah. I know.
Lean into it, Ryan. Lean into it.
The scenes that I would say are kind of traditional genre scenes, fantasy scenes. So, we have this thing where like a bunch of people in the show we've seen talk about, the Song of Ice and Fire and Viserys passing it on. And then we saw Rhaenyra pass it on to Jace. And, just as an example of like, I would say that is House of the Dragon as it's at its most fantasy, where it's basically like leaning in and saying, okay, remember everybody, this isn't just a medieval history. There's a fantasy element to it. But because our show, I like to see our show as something that is a genre show that's subverting the genre at the same time. It's not shying away from that stuff and not being embarrassed about that stuff, which I think other fantasy shows have done. We're a fantasy show and we're proud of it. But how do you dramatize that in such a way that doesn't feel like you're doing the sort of young adult fantasy novel thing, and how do you make it driven by character and make it surprising and unexpected while also delivering on this thing that the audience loves, which is the idea of prophecy and myth and legend and I think those are very tricky to do, because you want it to be there, but you also want it to be great and interesting and unexpected at the same time.
Well, I think this episode is a great reminder also. I mean, the dragon stuff in this episode is amazing. It's amazingly rendered, but also the acting that you guys do. And we have a bunch of dragon riders on the stage here. Well done, everybody. I mean, like conveying so much. I mean, I'm so sad that Eve's not with us. I mean, what she conveys in those unspoken moments in what must be like a very a tough situation, like a hard situation to kind of like be a pure actor.
And she's essentially sitting on a buck and bronco from like Saddleback Ranch, I mean, that's what it is, and
with like a grip, with a leaf blower blowing it in your face, and it's the least immersive experience that I think you can offer, and
coming soon to a theme park near you.
Yeah. We should. I said we should just we should charge £100 and just let people go up there, and then we could pay for season 4.
Do any of the dragon riders want to attest to that? What's it like to be up there, and is it easy to lose yourself? I mean, that takes commitment.
The leaf blower is true. two guys with leaf blowers, like,
and the jet wash.
And the jet wash, yeah. That was great. You're just sort of hanging from a hydraulic crane
for 10 hours.
With a camera whipping around your face. Yeah.
With lunch.
With lunch.
With lunch, yeah.
20-minute break somewhere in there, yeah.
I mean, not to bring it back to Fabien, but he also had a fake horse.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Let's talk about that.
Sarah, don't do him like that.
Hold on. My 122 hours of horse riding lessons, actually, they did come in. I did ride for brief moments. And I'll tell you something, it might look like I'm not working quite hard on that horse that's walking, but the armor itself. Just saying.
Who among your amazing cast asks the most questions of you? Who's got the most, perhaps, notes, ideas, in a helpful way?
You know what? I have to say, our show is...
I don't know if they're here tonight.
Yeah.
That's convenient. Let's rank this group.
No, but I mean, our show is... of the shows that I have worked on, our show is unique in this. I mean, we do read-throughs before the show, and before we start shooting, and we actually welcome thoughts, and it's a very collaborative medium in which, I mean, it's not, okay, what do you want? We'll do it. But it's more like, let's talk about where this comes from, and is there anything that's missing? And we sort of welcome that collaboration, because we are working with really smart people who have thoughts, and the cast is so huge that it's like we're not going to be able to think of every tiny detail. So it's really useful to, you know, have our actors come and talk to us about, you know, how they feel about stuff. So yeah, we actually, I mean, and Ryan, it's like most showrunners don't do this, but you actually, you know, I think Ryan's really great at, like, whoever's got a great idea, like you're very welcoming of all of that, and I think that's a good.
Yeah, well, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I mean, I think...
See me later.
You got it. I think because of the nature of the show, and it takes so long to shoot. I mean, between prep and shooting, it's a year.
Right.
You actually do have a really long time to... I mean, you're shooting a scene every day, so obviously you're turning cards over that we can't go back and do that again. But we're in kind of constant dialogue the entire year with not only, you know, writers and cast, but also directors involved with it. And everybody, it's all dimensionalizing. Like the scripts are two-dimensional because it's just words on a page. And then, you know, and the director brings their kind of directorial vision to it. And that adds a dimension. The cast brings the dimension of embodying the role and bringing all the nuance and the things that aren't written on the page they bring to the scene. And I think it's just being, you know, this is a collaborative medium. So I think, and it's a true multimedia multi-medium, where it's not just writing, it's not just acting, it's not just directing, it's set design and costume design, all those things coming together. And I think just being open to that and taking advantage of the fact that it's a slow process making the show, and there are multiple opportunities to be in dialogue with everybody, you know, all these guys and everybody that makes the show, to fully realize it and its potential.
But also it's Fabien.
And it's his horse, really. The fake horse had lots of questions.
What is like the smallest, or it doesn't have to be small, production detail that's been helpful to any of you on set? Whether it's a piece of costuming, a wig. It's not going to be the wig. We're not going to go there, Matt. But because, I mean, the production design, the costumes, everything about this is so meticulous. It's top notch in every respect. It all must be helpful. But is there anything any of you can pinpoint that's really like kind of locked you into a character?
They've got these very comfortable chairs that you can sort of fold back on. And in my armor, it's really unbelievably comfortable for me during lunchtime.
Right.
And I'm really grateful that they got those in for season 2.
They're from IKEA.
Yeah, I have heard.
We are going to take that microphone away from you, Fabien, if you're not good. But I mean, getting into wardrobe, I mean, the eye patch does 10% of the work, I would imagine, at least.
Yeah, pretty much all of it as well. Yeah, the eye patch is the finishing touch, you know, with all of, you know, Amanda Knight's incredible artistry and Caroline McCall's costumes. Like, they're just, like every department on this, like, they are at the top of their game. And there's just this, there's just a massive amount of passion from Ryan, and it bleeds through all of those departments. And yeah, and as an actor, you just want to help realize the vision of the writers and all the directors, and that passion's contagious.
I'd love to give it a little bit more love to a couple relationships we haven't touched on tonight. I mean, again, it's featured in this episode. The scene between Alicent and Aegon is just kind of, I mean, you kind of break poor Aegon's spirit. How dare you? No, he had it coming. He deserves it. But can you talk a little bit, what do you recall about that moment? It does feel like, I mean, was that a key moment for you, Tom, in terms of like, it does feel like there's a shift in a realization for you in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the definition of kicking a dog when it's down. I really enjoyed that day.
Did you?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Shut up. I think it helped, if anything. Anyway, that's a story for another time. No, I thought I enjoyed that, and what's great about working with Liv is it always feels different. And you know, we try something, and there were little nuances, little moments that were working, really clicking in. And, you know, we'd keep those, and it was kind of an unspoken dialogue we were having with each other, and it just felt like we locked in. Yeah, and for Aegon, poor guy, I just feel eternally sorry for him. I love him to bits, and I think he's an absolute tragic case. And I just want the best for him, Josh.
We're all rooting for that poor guy. What a sweetie. Olivia, do you have a perspective on that relationship, that scene in particular?
I mean, Aegon's her biggest disappointment, and that's really hard to sort of like. Wow. Sorry, but he
it's tough love. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I think it's really hard to sort of like confront that realization as a parent, even though I'm not one, and I'm trying to act like I am. And Tom is, my age. But hey, it's fantasy. It's fine. It's fine.
Dragons. It's okay. Yeah.
But
embrace the fantasy.
But yeah, I mean, she had all these hopes, and she thought she could steer and mold this king from the wings, but he's incapable of taking direction, and his big ego and his massive insecurities just sort of overtake.
Emma, could you speak perhaps a little bit about what you think Rhaenyra sees in Mysaria?
Yeah, she's really hot.
Well, there's that.
I really like. I think the way that relationship is plotted is really smart and really interesting, because they begin as two people who are, I think, deeply suspicious of one another, and they're both women who have developed skill sets to, I think, in the main, navigate and manipulate men, and those skills, those skill sets are not actually designed to be used on other women, and so there's also like there's like a vulnerability. There's like a great threat there, I think, certainly from Rhaenyra's perspective. And I think she's surprised by the intimacy that develops. I think Rhaenyra is like she can't survive well as a sort of sole agent. She requires partnership for survival, and you sort of, I think, see this a bit across both series, like when one person's out, another person's in, and it's quick. It's like she couples with people, she sort of drags people really, really close, and ultimately asks too much, and relationships explode, etc. But I think in the case of Mysaria, it's like I think it comes as a surprise. I think. And it's almost, maybe it's like a little healthier than some of the relationships she's had previously. There's like mutual respect involved. It's like a radical new experience. Yeah.
I would imagine, I mean, we're talking, this is just, a fraction of your ensemble. It's a sprawling show, and that's a challenge for you guys, but it's also like, what an advantage to kind of like, on each episode, to like mix and match and to kind of like collide all of these conflicting views, these complex shades of gray against each other, and then see what emerges.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the. I mean, I think that's the thing the original series Game of Thrones did really well was it sort of built these relationships, and then it separated people through space and time, and then would also bring them back together, and they would come back together in a having experienced these things on the battlefield or whatever by the pressures of the war and the situation they were in. They come back together, changed people, are different, slightly evolved, and the relationship would change as a result. And I think we've had a lot of fun playing with that in this, and also combining people that we saw Mysaria interact a lot with Daemon in season 1, so we got a sense of her character and Daemon's character through that. But then you put Mysaria in contact with Rhaenyra, who also has a relationship with Daemon, and they're more mature characters at that point because they're both older and have experienced more, and it just makes it more interesting. And I don't know what the stats are on season 2, but Sara did a intimidating count at some point for season 3, but we have 19 13 point of view characters in the show. And when we say point of view, it means like a character can have their own scene without another one of the characters in it. And we try to be fairly rigid about who are POV characters in the show because it helps keep your arms around it, so it doesn't feel like you're all over the field all the time, and it feels like you're seeing the show through a certain POV. But that's a lot. It's exciting because it's a lot to service, and it gives you a lot of opportunity to do those recombinations. But it reminds you how it's a multi ensemble show in a big way. But it also demonstrates and dramatizes how the sprawl and breadth and scope of this epic story that we're telling.
Our writer's room boards basically look like those serial killer hunter bulletin boards with the threads and the like who and what's going on.
The Charlie Day meme from Always Sunny.
I would imagine also as the years go by, you're kind of learning more and more about like how to adapt such dense material. You know, George's world has such a density to it, and like how to, the license to change and not change what's important to the television medium that doesn't necessarily, serve you to adapt. What have you learned kind of like as you go into season 3 about adaptation?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a constant adventure, and I mean, it really is. It is our cross to bear in a way, because you're working with this beloved world and this beloved work, which is a history book. I mean, Fire and Blood, unlike the original series, which is a kind of traditional narrative, Fire and Blood is a history book. So it's these many times sketches and descriptions of these historical events, sometimes intentionally without context, because that is the way history comes. I was going to say it's kind
of the opposite of dense, actually.
Yeah.
Like
the world is dense, but the information is not necessarily. Yeah. So and that's the thing, and it's like we're trying to provide an objective POV on a series of historical events that were described by 3 different fictional narrators, and they conflict with each other and whatever. So we're trying to find this is our through line, the writers, Sara and I, our through line through this very complex thing. And our interpretation of that is going to be different than, this person's interpretation, that person's interpretation. So I think that's the thing, is like, keeping on that and keeping your true north through it all. And for me, it's always been, I've been a fan of these books for 25 years. I mean, I discovered these books in the year 2000, and immediately, had this like, resonant bond with them. And I've lived in it, I've studied it, I've listened to all the audiobooks, all of them. I've read the books multiple times, and I feel like I've lived in the world. So my approach to it has always been, what is the show that I want to see as a successor to Game of Thrones, which I'm also a giant fan of as a show and the book. And that's been the true north of it. And there really is no one way to adapt this. There is no one true adaptation of this particular story because of the nature of the way it's written. And look, there's a constant dialogue between us, and it's collaboration and compromise all the time. I mean, Sara and I have different point of views on things, and sometimes those come together in synergy, and sometimes it's just it's going to the other writers and saying, okay, who's right and who's wrong here, and it's that thing, and we talked about earlier, is listening and finding your way through it.
So as we sit here, this cast has just reunited very recently, and we're heading into season 3. Mm-hmm. Have you all read material? Have you read their work for season 3? Should we just do a table read of episode 1 right now? Just to like dust off the cobwebs? They're here.
You're asking them who did their homework.
Yeah, exactly. Who made requests going into season 3, and who did you honor? Whose request did you actually honor? Emma, I know that you talked to me about wanting a little action, wanting a weapon.
Yeah.
Has the dream come true? Did you fulfill Emma's dream?
Am I allowed to answer that?
We're on very, very shaky ground here, Joe. Let's be very careful.
I got what I wanted, folks.
I remember season 2, Olivia was just like, please, can I go to Spain?
We made that happen.
Yeah, because everyone else got to go to Spain. Yeah, and have
season
fun.
1, everyone just all had so much fun.
She's like, I've been in the Red Keep for so long. So I remember we were like, Olivia, you're going to get to go to Spain, but we're going to hit you in the face with a fish. And she was like, fine. Yeah. Like, let's do this. Like,
I was like, yeah, deal. And yeah, he fucking hit me in the face with a fish. It's like the guy who hit me in the face with the fish was a pro cricketer. My head swiveled.
Wasn't that like one?
Nothing but the very best.
It was the first take was the best take. I think he just hit you right.
The first time he hit my crotch, and I was like higher up, and then the second time he got me square in the jaw.
That's a very excellent way to misdirect my question about season 3. Well done, guys. Is there anything you want to tease? We're going to wrap this up now. Is there anything you can say?
Sure.
The goat is back.
The goat is back. Del. Yeah, I mean, I think the exciting thing about season 3 is that it's. I mean, season 2 is huge. Season 3 is huger in many ways, and there are like I was doing a little count in my head because I knew this question was coming. But I think there are sort of by my quick count on stage. Don't hold me to this, but there are 4 sort of major events from the book that we get to, adapt and realize in 3 dimensions this season. I think that's really exciting on like a scope and scale sort of perspective. And I think it's the thing the show does really well. And I mean, the things that we're building, and it's mind-boggling. But I think the thing that I'm most excited about, and I've talked about this a lot, is from a dramatic perspective, is that we got to have a little fun this season. And there's a conceptual episode this season that I'm really excited about that Sara wrote. That's amazing, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But I think a conceptual episode meaning that it isn't in the sort of traditional vernacular of what we have sort of laid out as the structure of a traditional House of the Dragon episode. And it's very character driven, but it's I think it's really great, and I'm really excited to see it rendered, because the things that excite me the most on the show are the storytelling, the writing, letting the actors go and do the things that they're best at. And anyway, so and I think that's a great thing about what we do well, is delivering on the big spectacle scale, but also doing the chamber drama in a really interesting way.
I'm excited about the bottle episode about Criston and his armor that's coming, that you've just teased. Coming soon, guys, next season. Look, the degree of difficulty on the show is off the charts, and you guys truly accomplish it, and it's in no small part because of this remarkable cast. So thank you guys so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Josh.
Everybody, thank you for coming out tonight. House of the Dragon.
And so ends another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to this show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a big podcast person. I'm Daisy Ridley, and I definitely wasn't pressured to do this by Josh.